Narrative Pro 2 ships with great navigation tools made for really any type of game. They're really easy to use, and in this video we'll show you how to generate your map images, add points of interest, support fast traveling, and show you all the magical stuff that just works, like how quests just know to add navigation markers for you. The save system automatically remembers locations you've discovered before, it remembers all the custom waypoints you've placed, and how gamepads just work out of the box. The system really just does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So let's get started. If you haven't learned how to install Narrative, go watch the installation guide, because this video starts where the installation guide leaves off. It only takes about 10 minutes and we show you all of the basics as well, so it's definitely worth watching. Okay, so we're here inside of the quick start guide, and in that video we actually did generate some map tiles. So if I was to hit play, you can see that we actually do have some images that show up on the minimap. However, the images that we generated are definitely way too small, and I would like to generate a shot of the whole map this time. So let's go ahead and click on the map tile bounds here. And we're going to center this at the world origin. And I'll just move it up to, say, 20,000, and that way it will sit up above the map, because the height is where the image will be taken from. So you want to make sure it's like higher than all these hills you can see in the background here. Then you want to just come to map width and input your map width. I happen to know that this map is about 201,600 in size. The other issue you're going to have is that if we're making a way bigger map image, we're not upping the resolution, so the map will be extremely blurry unless we bump up the number of tiles. So we're going to do that as well. We're going to bump the number of tiles up to 5 here. So that will give us a 5x5 grid. So 25 tiles basically. You want to search for Navigator and open up the utility Navigator by clicking Run. And then make sure you also delete the old map tiles. At this time, the tool does not do that for you. You have to delete the old ones. And then you can click on Generate Tiles. I'm going to click these dots here and go to current camera location, just so that my camera actually spawns at the cylinder here, just so I can show you guys. And if I jump in, you can see the cylinder is a little bit blurrier just because we are taking a much bigger shot of our map. If I press M to open this up, it'll become a little bit more obvious. You can see the map is just massive now, but we have less definition. You can also see some minor seams, and these are very easy to fix. If you want to fix the map seams, this is caused by floating point rounding errors. If you go into the image size and just bump this up by, say, 4 pixels, that should close the seams. If I come into the map here, yeah, you can see the seams are gone. The next thing to note is you probably don't actually want to use these raw images as your map. Like if you ever play a game like GTA or The Witcher, Red Dead, these sorts of open world games, they don't actually use the raw photo of the map. They'll generally send it to the artists so that they can stylize it. So if I right click, I'm going to save these map tiles first. And then if I right click on that folder that I've got the map tiles in the Windows Explorer here, if I go to properties, you can see there's actually 48 megabytes, which is really quite a lot for an image of our map. So by getting your artists to clean these up, it will do 2 things for you. First of all, it will make them look a lot nicer in the context of a piece of UI, right? You can stylize them, but also your artists can export these with Photoshop, and they can use compression to get the size way down. These are raw images, so they're a lot bigger in size than they need to be. In order to send these images to your artist, you simply need to right click on them, go to Asset Actions, Bulk Export, and I've just made a folder on my desktop called Artist, and I will export them there. And then you can send this to your artist, and your artist will have these files that they can import into Photoshop or whatever tool they want, and they can actually stylize these, clean them up, add, you know, any extra things that you need on there. And then they can basically send them back to you in a much more compressed form. And so all you'll need to do when they send them back to you is just take those new ones that they give you and drag them into the map, and then basically just re-import them. But in today's video, we are just going to work with that raw map shot that we've taken. So now that we've got some map shots, let's go ahead and talk about POIs. This is kind of another big piece of the system. So if we drag a POI actor in here, You want to use POIs for things like cities and towns, or just random points that are going to need to be fetched later on. So with my POI actor here, I'm going to add a POI tag. This is how you access your POI later on. So we'll just add a subtag, make sure you select what I'm selecting here. And I'm just going to call my location narrative city. And we'll add narrative city and select that. And POIs have quite a lot of default options. You can change the marker that shows up. You can change the display name. I'm going to call mine narrative city. And the other two big options are whether or not you want this POI to actually show up on the map. Sometimes you don't want POIs to show up on the map. You just need them to be around so that you can access them somewhere. But other times for things like cities that you can, find and travel to, you actually would want them to show up on the map, right? And the other option is fast travel. So we've written fast travel into the game. If you have, a world partitioned map, you can actually fast travel to the POI and we will handle loading the map in for you. And this capsule here defines where the fast travel should take your character to. So you can move this around and place it wherever you want to place the character when they fast travel here, basically. When you're happy with all that, you can save this and jump into the game, and you'll notice that the POI does not exist. And this is quite important. So POIs do not actually necessarily exist. If you have hundreds of them in the level, these POIs that you can see, these actually just get turned into data. We don't want your level's performance to be worn down by having hundreds of these actors in the level. So what these do is if you go to the navigator and click generate POIs, these get baked out to just raw data, and that data is what you can see on the map. So now if I hit play, it works just fine. I can open up the map, my POI shows up. You will notice as well that I can fast travel to this POI, but I've not necessarily discovered it, which is not usually how you want games to work, right? Usually you have to go to the POI and then you can fast travel there. Well, there's actually a little hack that we wrote where in the editor, you can fast travel to any POI, because usually when your designers are testing your game, it's very handy for them to be able to quickly fast travel around without having to discover locations. But rest assured, in the packaged game, you will actually have to discover this location before you can fast travel to it. You can see I'm going to click on it, and it teleports me over to the POI. This brings me to my next point, which is discovery. POIs can be discoverable. This is also a very common sort of behavior that you will see in open world games. To make a POI discoverable, you just have to simply add a collision of some kind to it. So we're going to use a sphere collision. There is also box collision and many others. And if we just make this bigger, basically this is defining the radius that we will discover the POI at. So I'm just going to make it that big. Let's go with that. And then just go to collision, custom, ignore all except for pawn. So that way only your character will trigger this volume basically. And that's all you need to do. By default, POIs, when they are overlapped, will become discovered. We're going to click on generate POIs. So if I was to actually jump into the game here, you can see that the POI is sort of grayed out because it's now discoverable, right? Narrative has seen it's got a volume on it, so it realizes, okay, this is a discoverable POI. And it will be grayed out until such time as we discover it. And I also want to show you, this is actually saved to disk. So all of the systems that come with narrative are pretty much hooked up to be saved right out of the box to save you all of the work of having to do that. So you can see I've discovered the icon and it's turned white. But if I actually save into slot 1, when you restart, it will automatically try to load slot 1 for you. And you can see it's already white. It remembers that I've discovered that location before. And in a package game, I'd only be able to fast travel to it if I'd actually discovered it before. The other thing that is saved for you is if I double click on the map, you can see it drops a custom waypoint. This is a very common feature for open world games. And again, these are saved to disk. If I save here, I can reopen the game and you can see same thing. It's saved that custom waypoint for me. I believe by default you can drop in up to 5 custom waypoints, which is kind of an absurd amount of these to have. But you can turn the number down if you want in the project settings. Should also quickly mention that if you start using a gamepad, we support moving around with the gamepad, placing down the custom waypoints, and so on. So that's supported, and we try to support controller with all of the UI and narrative. You can see I can navigate through the inventory, and I can change through my filters and things like that as well. Alright, so the next thing we're going to drill into is how do you make your own navigation markers. So what I'm going to do is in the place actors menu here, I will just put a cube in the level here, and let's say that you want to add a navigation marker to this cube. In order to do that, we have given you the navigation marker component. If you add one of those to your actor, you can go to the marker object and select map marker. You could theoretically use some of these other types, but these are kind of special ones that we've made here. You really want to use map marker. This is the base one. And if you go to marker setup, you can define a whole bunch of stuff about the marker. I'll just show you though that right off the bat, if you hit play, you can see that on my compass, on my minimap, and on the world map, there's this map marker, and it just says location marker by default. So we're going to go into some of these settings. So let's go into some of the settings on the navigation marker here. So the first thing is default marker settings defines what the marker will look like on all of the different navigators. So for example, if I was to change the tint of the icon and hit play, you can see that the icon is now being drawn in a nice red. Another fun one, if I take the cube, I'm going to make it movable, and I'm going to add a rotating movement to it so that the cube spins around. And if you click on the navigation marker now, there's a show actor rotation box. If you turn that on and hit play, you can see that the rotation of the actor is being shown as well. If you walk up to NPCs, they have this option turned on so that their marker points in the direction that they're facing. You can also override settings per navigator. So for example, the compass, I can change the tint of the icon to be green, and then only on compass you'll see it shows in a green this time. If you go down to marker domain, these navigators are being used at the moment. Compass, minimap, and world map, these are the defaults. So navigators are basically just like pieces of UI that the marker shows up on. And by default, it will not add it to screen space, but if I was to add it to the screen space navigator as well, you can see we now actually get a screen space marker as well. Or I could, for example, remove it from the compass. Let's say I didn't want this to show up on the compass. You can see I'm no longer getting that marker on the compass. Pin to map edge will keep the marker on the edge of the map, right? It will not allow the marker to go off. You can see as I run away, it's keeping that marker pinned to the edge of the map. So markers can also support the idea of being used. So for example, the POI marker, you can use it by fast traveling. If you click on it, it'll fast travel to it. The custom waypoint marker, if you use it, it will remove it from the map. So markers can be sort of clicked on and interacted with. If you need that sort of functionality, the way to do it is to come into your content browser and make a new blueprint. And for the class type, you want to select map marker. I'm just going to call this BP, my custom map marker. There's quite a bit of stuff you can sort of override here, but marker action text will sort of define what shows up on the marker. Let's make a really basic example. Maybe you want a marker where if you click on it, it gives you more information about the location or the marker. So I'm going to say, get more info. And then on select, when you click on the marker, we actually need to do something. And in Narrative Pro, you can add a notification to the player's screen at any time by using the show narrative HUD notification. I'm going to make this a variable as well, so you can make this whatever you want. I'll click the little I here, compile and save. All right, so check this out. We should be able to click on our cube, go to the marker. We'll have to change it from the default map marker to the one that we made. And now I can put in a message. So I can say a nice cube. And if we jump into the game, open our map, you can see it's prompting us to get more info. And I can click on it and it says a nice cube. The last thing I'm going to talk about is how the quest editor basically has support for markers built in. Now, if you want to know more about quests, you should watch the quests and dialogue video. But as an example, I'm just going to make a very quick quest to show you this in action. So if you go to narrative and make a quest, I'm going to say go to location quest. If you go into the quest graph to start designing your quest, you can drag out. And one of the tasks that is available out of the box of narrative is go to location, right? Maybe during a quest, you have to go to a certain location. You can see all the quest tasks in narrative have this navigation markers section, and you can add a navigation marker if you want. So we'll go to the goal location, and you need to tell it where you have to go, right? So I'm going to make it so I'll just drag another cube in over here. I'm going to make it so you have to go to this cube here. So we'll just copy that location. For my task, I will just go to specified transform and just paste in that location. We'll begin the quest on begin play by going into the level blueprint. And to begin a quest, you just have to grab the tails component and begin quest. And then we'll select that quest that we just made. Again, if you want to know more about quests, go and look at the quests and dialogue video because this explains all of this stuff. I just want to show you that if we were to begin a quest, you can see it's telling me in my quest to go to the location. You can see if I do it, it knows to sort of automatically remove the marker when you complete the task and all that stuff. It's just handled for you out of the box, which is really useful. I mentioned earlier that you can grab POIs whenever you want, and this task is a good example to show that off. So here I'm telling the player they have to go to this cube, but if I was to click on point of interest, I can actually say, hey, in this quest, you have to go to Narrative City, right? For the location name, I can type Narrative City, compile and save, and check this out. When I start the quest, it's saying go to Narrative City, right? And the real power of this is that if anyone moves this Narrative City location, you will of course have to generate your POIs, but it will just update the quest automatically, right? You've created a quest where it no longer is really annoying to change values, it's just pulling it from the world. This sort of stuff's pretty underrated actually, because it's really annoying. Like you'll see this all the time in development. Someone moves a POI and then there's like a bunch of quests that use it and you need to go and update them all, and then you don't even realize that you need to, and then your build's broken, and there's all sorts of examples where this logic really helps. In narrative, you need to subclass narrative gameplay HUD in order to create your HUD, but we add this one out of the box. So if you want to just use the default one, you can do that. If you open this up, this is the default HUD that sort of comes with Narrative Pro. And the way that you sort of customize it is literally just by moving these navigator widgets to wherever you want. Here's the minimap, for example. I could anchor that to this corner here. If I play, you can see that's just changed, right? That's just updated. So it's really as simple as just moving the navigators to where you want it. Maybe for some reason you want two mini-maps. You know, you could easily just drag another one on and you would have to place it in the right location. And we'll just size it out a bit. But you can see here, I've got two mini-maps. You can see that the mini-map style, it defaults to the style where it has blurred edges. But with the compass one here, you can go to map style and select a different map style. We offer a few different ones. I think the distorted edge one looks quite cool if you compile that and hit play. It's kind of stylized so that the corners of the map kind of distort, almost like glass. But anyways, I'm going to set that back to how it was. That's just an example to sort of show you how easy it is to sort of drop these in to any UI that you need them on. And of course, if you need to modify any of these, you can just open them up, right? We don't really use that many complex, hard to understand systems that you won't have worked with before. These are simply just widget blueprints. There's compass one. If you want to modify the compass, you can open this up. You can do things like change the compass image that we use. And all of the navigators use this navigator base. This is kind of the base class for any navigator widget that needs to support having navigation icons added to it. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that the navigation system serves you well in narrative. If you have any questions or need help with any modifications or anything like that, feel free to reach out in the Discord. Thank you very much for watching.